Welcome back to Kirby's Dream Buffet, the latest Kirby spin-off game. Recently, I attempted to get through this highly food-centric game without eating. If you haven't already, you can check that video out at your leisure. But today, we're doing what you all probably expected me to do when the game was released. That's right. Today, we answer the question, is it possible to win Kirby's Dream Buffet without jumping? So before we get into this, let's determine what jumping actually is in this game. Well, obviously pressing the jump button, and thereby jumping, is illegal. But wait, there's more. Historically in these no-jump challenges, we've banned hovering as well. And as it turns out, hovering is indeed a mechanic which is present in Kirby's Dream Buffet. You can't activate it on command, though. The way it works is if you fall off the stage, you automatically start hovering. This means that not only do we have to not jump, we also have to not, through incompetence or happenstance, ever fall off. If we can win an online game of Kirby's Dream Buffet without breaking these rules, then we can consider this challenge to have been a success. The overall goal of a game of Kirby's Dream Buffet is to acquire the most strawberries. These strawberries can be gained or lost through the course of 4 rounds of play. The first round is always a race, the second is always a minigame, the third is yet another race, and the fourth is a battle royale, wherein the Kirbys engage in combat with one another to steal each other's strawberries. We'll be looking at each type of round individually, starting with round 2, the minigame round. There are 4 types of minigames in Kirby's Dream Buffet: collecting strawberries, breaking crumble blocks, defeating enemies, and having tea. Most of these minigames are about equivalent in difficulty for our no-jump challenge. Ultimately, there's just not much meaningful difference between hunting strawberries, crumble blocks, and enemies in the context of this challenge. Really, the arena a given minigame takes place in has a much greater impact on our performance than the type of minigame itself. In particular, we don't like seeing any arenas with obstacles that jumping is helpful in dealing with, like this waffle one, or to a lesser extent the soup one. That being said, there is one type of minigame that is far more impactful than the others. Negatively, of course. Tea time. In tea time, just like the other minigames, the goal is to eat as many strawberries as possible. In this game, they are poured into teacups, which just sort of appear out of the ether. The issue is, well, normally one would jump to gain access to the cups. Obviously, we can't do that. That's not to say we can't gain access to the teacups at all, though. If we just so happen to be present on a saucer when a teacup appears there, then we will be displaced into the cup itself, thus allowing us to gain the strawberries being delivered there. So we can get some strawberries from this minigame, but obviously it's not exactly a realistic expectation that we'd be able to consistently hang out on the saucers that are destined to have cups placed on them, and thereby get any meaningful quantity of strawberries from the minigame. So of all the types of minigames we can face, this one is still clearly the worst. That being said, it is debatable as to whether or not doing well in the minigame round actually matters. Like, at all. I mean, it's such a low-scoring round that I have a hard time getting too worked up over a poor performance in it. I mean, gaining 20 or 30 strawberries would be a pretty good minigame round, which is about as many strawberries as you could get from just one kill in the Battle Royale. I mean, obviously more strawberries is always better. And I'm certainly not happy to run into tea time. But ultimately, it's not worth getting too upset over either. In the grand scheme of things, we really ought to be more concerned with the races. Now, races are, of course, much more impactful on our final score than minigames. Therefore, it's incumbent upon us to really push ourselves to get as many strawberries as possible in these races. That, of course, means interacting with the delicate balance of speed versus what we'll call thoroughness. Basically, the earlier you finish the race, the more strawberries you get at the end of it, which incentivizes you to go as quickly as possible. But on the other hand, you can also earn a good deal of strawberries scattered along the course itself, some of which are out of the way of the most efficient racing lines. In theory, the best strategy is to be as thorough as possible while still finishing the race first. Obviously easier said than done. More so for us because we have a third concern looming over us. an absolute necessity to stay on the course at any cost. Obviously, most players would prefer not to fall off the course, since it's typically a useless, time-consuming detour at best, but for us, being forced off the stage and into hovering as a result is lights out for the attempt. As such, oftentimes we find ourselves needing to sacrifice speed and/or thoroughness to simply ensure the integrity of our challenge. Which is harder to maintain than you think, because we're not only worried about our actions here, nor even the opportunity cost of our actions compared to what our opponents unburdened by the challenge are capable of, but oftentimes what's really concerning is just straight up collisions with our opponents that can knock us to our doom by really no fault of our own. Of course, this risk level varies greatly by course, so let's get into that. Baumkuchen is at about the midpoint in terms of difficulty. There are a few narrow sections which you can certainly get knocked off of, but such sections don't define Baumkuchen. Most pathways here are not unreasonably narrow. Additionally, most of the obstacles present aren't made much more difficult to contend with by removing your ability to jump, including the cool, peaceful tunnel at the end. Pancakes I'd rank as a decent bit easier than Baumkuchen. The pathways here are generally even easier to navigate safely than in Baumkuchen, with the curved waffle bits going so far as to be kind of self-correcting. The rotating pancake walls are a bit annoying, since normally the easiest way to get by them is by jumping between them, but we're talking about an obstacle that when everything goes wrong, you get delayed for a couple seconds, not one where failure means the end of the attempt. Hamburgers, on the other hand, has loads of potentially run-ending obstacles. Narrow panhandles, spinning burger components. Okay, that about covers it, but trust me, those two obstacles are mighty annoying to deal with on this course. Ice cream is a slightly more pleasant experience than hamburgers. Most of it is pretty wide, but the ice physics are quite annoying. Additionally, the narrow shortcuts here are so much more enticing than on almost any other course. They lure you in, and then, well, usually doesn't work out well in the end. But you know what's better than ice cream? My brand new Patreon. That's right, I've finally decided to take the plunge and set up a Patreon. So, if you like these videos and want to support my work, then that is a great way to go about it. But I'm trying to not just appeal to your charity here. So let me tell you about what subscribing to the Patreon can get you. For just $1 a month, you can join at the CMC follower tier, which will allow you to view my Patreon posts, which I'm planning on including news, updates, and probably some behind-the-scenes looks in. Additionally, you'll get to join the CMeeCraft Gaming Patreon Discord server, where we can, as a community, hang out, chat about the channel, gaming, or anything really, and just generally have a good time. For $5 a month, you can join at the CMC Supporter tier, which includes all the benefits from the previous tier, plus you'll get access to the videos on the CMeeCraft Gaming YouTube channel 24 hours before they're released publicly on YouTube. You'll also get to vote in a quarterly poll to determine an upcoming video topic, and your name will appear at the end of all videos on the CMeeCraft Gaming YouTube channel. And finally, at $15 a month, you'll join the CMC Enthusiast tier, which includes all benefits from the previous tiers, with the added perk of getting your name vocally called out at the end of the videos, instead of just appearing as text. So if any of that sounds appealing to you, you can join at www.patreon.com/CMeeCraft. I've been mulling this decision over for well over a year at this point, and come to the conclusion that this will be a good way for me to connect with this wonderful community we've built here on YouTube a bit more directly, and in the process make YouTube a bit more of a stable venture monetarily. That, of course, outside of the strictly listed Patreon benefits, will benefit us all by allowing me to justify greater investments into this channel. But anyways, the choice is yours. I will, of course, be immensely grateful to any of you that do decide to join, but for now, let's get back to the video. I'm sure many of you are wondering which of the race courses I would consider to be the easiest for this challenge. Well, wonder no longer. It's Shortcake. It's got wide pathways, easily accessible strawberries, non-strawberries that are reasonably simple to nab, and I mean, the ending section is a bit annoying, but generally not life-threatening, so mwah, chef's kiss, I love the Shortcake. Chocolate Fountain is similarly non-life-threatening. That being said, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not a big slog. While our opponents nimbly leap between islands of food, we're left swimming through a viscous sea of sweetness. Sometimes we're not even able to effectively climb onto those food islands without jumping. Overall, this is not a race we are favored to win, nor are we likely to gain many strawberries along our route, but it is virtually a guarantee that we'll survive this round. And in this challenge, just living is half the battle. Cake Rolls is one of the trickiest of the race courses. This is a course that delights in splitting between two narrow, often windy paths. It's a race where the non-strawberries are often in very out of the way or risky places to go. And even the parts of it that are nominally safer than its more precarious obstacles are nowhere near as safe as the safest parts of other courses. Sure, you probably won't fall off of your own accord, but you can certainly be knocked off by someone else. But even worse than that is donuts. I mean, what can I say? The donuts themselves are nightmares. They're circular, uneven, relatively narrow, and just in general the perfect place to get knocked off of. Then there's the churros, which can be quite easy to derail yourself from if you're trying to traverse them with great speed. But hey, good thing we're not racing or anything. Oh. But you also have to look out for churros as obstructions, because this part here, while not deadly, slows us down relative to our opponents more than just about any other obstacle we've encountered, since our opponents can just jump over the churros. But there's still one more obstacle we haven't discussed yet, and that's the moving cinnamon sticks on these donuts near the end. The donuts themselves aren't too bad since they're the large variety, but these cinnamon sticks are just a pain to get around while grounded, often leading to us losing the race. So, that's the races. They certainly throw up some imposing obstacles in our path, but honestly, nothing compares to other people. Seriously. The other Kirbys at times make this experience feel like pinball. Pinball, which often leads to our ball being lost to hovering. But when it doesn't, our scores generally end up being pretty respectable. I'm not always winning going into the Battle Royale, like on this attempt where I faced ice cream crumble blocks and cake rolls beforehand, but as long as you make it to the Battle Royale alive and without having jumped, you still have a chance. So, we've arrived at the Battle Royale round. Now in general, we have the same goals here as any of our opponents, though we want to take special care not to end up hovering off the edge of the platform. Getting defeated by our opponents is fine, if not ideal, because, well, does this look like jumping or hovering to you? But yeah, in general, we want to gather up strawberries, use copy food abilities to slay our opponents, stay away from the edge, and just in general outplay our opponents. I'm not exactly thrilled about it taking place in this arena, though. Alright, got through the Battle Royale alive, and in the lead. Now let's see if it holds. The bonus strawberries on offer this round are most raspberries munched, not me. Most cookie walls crumbled, nice. And most copy food abilities used. Again, not me. But still, we win. Which means that it is possible to win Kirby's Dream Buffet without jumping. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, share, etc. As well as check out my recent no eating challenge on this very game, or my no attacking challenge on Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Additionally, you'll likely want to subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't already, so you are notified of my future videos. But anyways, until next time, I've been CMeeCraft, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Goodbye.